One Piece anime has such terrible pacing, it's unwatchable.
Wait, is it true though? I think that the answer is complicated. There are some qualities to One Piece that make it truly special, and it's just wrong to compare it to all the other animes of today. And if you want to find out why is it so special, stay tuned, and let's go. First of all, this video is for both One Piece fans and for those who haven't seen it. It won't have any major spoilers, so if you want to know how bad is One Piece's pacing really, and you haven't watched it yet, this video is for you. And also, most of you probably already know this, but for those who don't, One Piece, starting from 2026, is going to be maximum 26 episodes a year. Basically, it's going seasonal. And I learned about this when I was already editing this video, so I decided to just address it in the end. But everything I say in this video will still apply to One Piece anime, which is currently on Egghead arc. Okay, let's start from what people claim is the best way to tell if the pacing is good or bad. Chapter per episode count. Let's compare One Piece to all the other animes that are out right now. So, how does pace of Jujutsu Kaisen look? Well, first season averaged around 2.5 chapters per episode, while second season got faster and averaged around 3 chapters per episode. Cool, moving on. Chainsaw Man, with only one season, averages around 3.25 chapters per episode. Dan Da Dan. Season 1 adapted around 2.8 chapters per episode, while Season 2 got faster and adapted 3.1 chapters per episode on average. I checked lots of other anime series and all of them average around 3 chapters per episode. Okay, but what about One Piece? It doesn't have a clear number since chapter per episode count changed throughout the story and it changed drastically. So let's start from the beginning and I'll wrap some arcs into sagas so the list doesn't take too long. East Blue Saga, 1.85 chapters per episode. I mean, slower than New Gen anime, but still seems fine, right? Alabasta Saga, 1.75 chapters per episode. A little bit slower, but still in the same ballpark. Water 7 Saga, 1.35 chapters per episode. I was kinda surprised because it's one of the best arcs, but I still do remember those fights in the end dragging on a bit too long. Thriller Bark, 1.07. Okay, now it's kinda getting dangerous. Marineford Saga, 0.88. Honestly, when I searched it up, I didn't expect this number from my favorite saga in One Piece, but whatever, moving on. Fishman Island and Punk Hazard, 1 chapter per episode. A bit faster but still slow. Dressrosa, 0.86 chapters per episode. I mean, for those who watched it, you know how long it felt. Whole Cake, 0.82. It felt kinda the same as Dressrosa, like pretty dragged out. And then Wano, 1.78. Currently the slowest arc, or at least the slowest big arc, and it's no surprise, it was notorious for its pacing. And then Egghead, current arc. So far it's 0.9, so a tiny bit faster than the previous arcs, which is, I guess, cool? Okay, this is all good, but are these numbers actually telling the truth? Does that mean that recent One Piece arcs have to be like 4 times faster? I don't necessarily think so, because there are 2 sides to this coin, and the first side says that yes, at some point during the series I realized that I can't defend the pacing allegations any longer. I'd say that the arc it started with is Thriller Bark, but part of the reason why it feels so slow is not just the pacing, it's the arc itself, it is slow by itself, it's pretty boring. And it's kind of the same way with Fishman Island too, but I really started to feel that bad pacing in Dressrosa. The middle of the arc made me realize that the pacing is indeed as bad as everybody said. Whole Cake is somewhat like Dressrosa, but Wano made it even worse. Luckily for all of us, in Wano, Toei realized that they can at least make it up with animation and great visuals. And on top of that, sometimes they made episodes that, besides great visuals, added also great directing. And even though they were still slow, they added so much to the story it didn't really matter. They didn't feel slow, they were amazing. But the pacing came back right after, because obviously you can't fix the problem with some occasional great episodes. Because like, come on, for all those who saw it, you know that episode 1071 was ruined by its pacing and reused animation. And I'd love for Gear 5 Luffy to have like 2 or 3 episodes just to himself, just like we had the Zoro episode. But no, we will have useless cutaways, useless flashbacks, and reused animation. course. And Egghead, current arc in One Piece, feels a bit faster, but only a bit. There were still a lot of times when it was kinda hard to watch. And as a result, I came to a hard conclusion recently, that I can't be recommending the entirety of One Piece anime anymore. Only if you know how slow it actually is and you're ready for it. Otherwise, it's probably better to just switch to the manga right after time skip. It's not gonna be as fast-paced as other modern series, but it's still leagues above anime. Because I remember clearly the moment I switched to the manga right after the beginning of Egghead, after avoiding it for so long. And now that I watch Egghead in anime, it feels so much slower. Like, manga was packed with events. It felt like there was no slowing down. On the other hand, anime really feels slow sometimes. Also, part of me still doesn't understand why Toei didn't make more filler arcs. They seemingly have all the money in the world right now, so why? It would make the content so much better. Pacing is the only big flaw that One Piece has, and there is nothing I can say to defend it, because it's objectively bad. They can even do occasional breaks like they did recently. It's still gonna be better than what we have right now. So, well, yeah, I guess it's true. One Piece really does have terrible pacing. Or does it? Because as I said, there are two sides to this coin, and the second thing is the reason why I made this video. Because I see people comparing One Piece to all the other new gen animes. But how does it truly compare? The answer is... it doesn't matter. And you know why? Because One Piece is different. The story is different, the delivery is different, and the pace has to be different as well. First of all, the numbers that I showed in the beginning don't actually represent how slow the arcs feel. They just don't. There are other things involved other than chapter per episode count. Because I mean, just think about it. These numbers say that Thriller Bark is more than 20% faster than Marineford Saga. And if you watched One Piece, you know how ridiculous this sounds, because Thriller Bark was boring as hell, and Marineford Saga is one of the best, if not the best, sagas in One Piece, and it felt incredibly tense. Even though sometimes it felt like Luffy has been running for 10 episodes straight and he's still in the same place. But for the most part it didn't matter, because it was so packed with events, so much was going on. And again, on the other hand, Thriller Bark is actually one of the most boring arcs in One Piece. Like, most of the time it felt like nothing is happening. And it's the same case with Fishman Island, another one of the most boring arcs in One Piece, which is on paper still faster than Marineford, but I guess you understand now that it doesn't make sense. So as a result, the content itself and also how episodes are made changes things a lot. Now second, in my opinion, if One Piece would have the same pace as JJK or Chainsaw Man, it would definitely be worse. Why is One Piece so different that it can be allowed to have this slower pacing? And the reason is world building and delivery. This is my most important take in the entire video, so pay attention. If One Piece doesn't have that extra time to establish that new country, new location, new secondary character, it's gonna feel much more empty than it is right now. Yes, sometimes those characters aren't the most interesting ones, but a lot of the times they also are, and when One Piece takes its time and develops them, this endless world expands even more. There is also this tradition when something big happens in the world of One Piece, we have all the reactions of all the people that we met throughout the story, and it adds even more details and connections to the world, because we see that the events don't happen in a vacuum. Everything is interconnected and it changes slowly from event to event, and if they're gonna rush things, there's gonna be no time for this stuff, and the world building is gonna suffer for sure. And my second point is delivery, because this slower delivery makes room for some iconic stuff, like this Luffy and Frankie scene.
なんだそうかフランキーの弟をコーティングする師匠か
ま、似たようなもんだ
Yeah, it really is a classic. Another reason why I'm showing you this is because this scene was part of the arc that was remade recently with a newer and faster pace with around 3 chapters per episode. Almost 3 chapters. Just like all the other modern anime. And you know what? This scene is not there. They removed it, and this is like a clear example of why I think One Piece doesn't have to be this fast. This rule just doesn't apply to One Piece, and that's it. Okay, at this point you might be thinking that I'm not making any sense, because at first I told you that the pacing is trash and now I'm trying to defend it, so what is even my opinion here? And don't worry, my opinion on it is pretty clear. I think that for the most part, only latest arcs in One Piece started to have progressively bad pacing. But I also think that One Piece shouldn't be made in a new gen pace. In my opinion, the perfect pace for One Piece is how it was pre-time skip, around 1.5 chapters per episode. That way we can get rid of all the useless flashbacks and reuse scenes, and we can still keep this slower pace that can let One Piece, its story and its animation and everything truly shine. Well, I guess now that everything is broken down, I think it's about time to talk about this recent change that shocked everyone, including me. So when I first heard that One Piece is going seasonal, I was shocked. One Piece anime will be releasing no more than 26 episodes a year, and it's going on a break starting January, and it's coming back in April with this new pace and a new arc. I was like, oh my god, are they fixing the pacing? I immediately started to calculate, like figuring out what this new pace is gonna be. Just so you know, before all the breaks, in 2023, One Piece made 42 episodes, in 2022, 40, and in 2021, 47. So they never really made 52 episodes. And the reason I'm talking about 52 is because 52 is exactly 2 times the amount of episodes that we're gonna get next year. That means that roughly this new pace is gonna be a bit less than 2 times faster than the current pace. And if that is true, the thing that I wanted the most is about to happen. The thing that was just rambling about. They should be able to stick to this, in my opinion, perfect pacing for One Piece from now on. But also, I heard that they plan on sticking to 1 chapter per episode. And I haven't found any official tweets or anything saying that, just some news articles and also people online. But if that is true, first of all, I guess it's still an improvement because it's better than what it is right now. But second, I doubt that it is true because it doesn't make much sense. Because at this rate, they're going to fall behind the manga more and more each year, and there is nothing they're gaining in return. So my hope is that they're still gonna be adapting more than 1 chapter per episode. Because if not, they have only one choice left: to make every other episode a crazy quality episode like 10-15 was. It was still slowly paced compared to the manga, but it was so great and it added so much more to the story, it didn't really matter. Even for them, considering that they have all the money in the world, it is gonna be a stretch, so I doubt that they're gonna do that. Honestly, at this point, even the worst case scenario is still gonna be an improvement, so I guess no matter how you look at it, this change is still a win. Okay, so finishing this up. First, about the portion of One Piece anime that is out right now. Some people might think that it has universally bad pacing, but I hope that I proved that it's not the case. As for One Piece going seasonal in 2026, this is definitely great news, because the only flaw, the only big flaw that One Piece has is pacing, and it's gonna be fixed. And as a One Piece fan, I couldn't be more happy. So I guess starting 2026, One Piece is going to be on a generational run. Peak manga, peak anime, and peak live action. So get ready, subscribe for more anime content, and see ya.